we're going to do just a general Astralis update because lots has been happening with Astralis. First of all, and this is just a general thing and a follow-on point from where we were talking about, where are all the people that like, oh yeah, blame F. They were totally right to cut him. I saw somebody post this on Reddit, and it's just so fucking perfect. Like, remember, Blame F was the problem. We had to get him out. The Blame F hate was some of the most lazy narrative slop served up since the fucking fourth wave of the MCU. They're just garbage. But anyway, there's your boy Stown, your $2 million player. Anyway, so let's go back. Let's talk about Brovid. Obviously, while I was away, ESIC came out and they released a statement about the disciplinary action they were going to take over all of the things I was talking about earlier. Now, just to rehash it for when it goes on YouTube, basically what happened was there was a Blast tournament. They didn't have their new IGL, Cadian, registered because he joined 10 days prior to the tournament. They were obligated to use one of their registered substitutes. They didn't want to do that. It would have been Rugger, I believe, their coach in this occasion. So they fabricated a story about there being an emergency, and then they used that to get a special dispensation from Blast, where they have a load of friends because of all the intermingling that used to go on with Astralis and Blast, and obviously the Blastralis allegations and everything else. And then they promptly got knocked out of the tournament, including a 13-0, I think, on their debut map. And the whole thing was a mess. And we all knew it was lies, and we all knew it was bullshit. And Bro's agent was saying he's not even sick, right? And that's the player's representation. Astralis was saying, oh, there's been some miscommunication. Blast said there's no reason to think Astralis would lie. It's not like Astralis are known liars or anything. And in the aftermath of all of that drama, I think Nicola Nyholm even stood down as CEO. He was like, oh, just fuck this. I'm on Dragon's Den these days. I don't need this shit. That's how bad it's got. Astralis is so repulsively incompetent. Not even Nicola Nyholm can take it anymore. That's how fucking bad it's got, guys. So, anyway, ESIC, as toothless as a slug. I don't know, do slugs have teeth? They don't look like they do. Whatever. No, but someone will fact check me in the fucking chat. Actually, they do. They're just really small. But anyway, I'm sticking with that. ESIC, as toothless as a slug and about as fast in resolving their issues, came slithering, slugging, sliming their way in to investigate this one. But lo and behold, unlike most investigations, oh wow, someone has actually fact-checked me. Apparently slugs have 27,000 teeth. So not only are slugs not toothless, they have more teeth than almost anything else in existence. I think that's like the time Bobby Lee said Korea never had slaves. I've just been absolutely fucking wrecked. Right, well, that's why we workshop that one. It's all right. I'll leave it up to Griff whether it stays in or not. Sometimes, especially around about Christmas, you can take the L's. But anyway, so they came in, not like a slug now, and decided that they're going to investigate. And they investigated it, and unlike a usual ESIC investigation, this one had a finish. This one ended. No waiting for 2 years for this one. ESIC, public statement, investigation into Astralis' emergency substitution request for Alexander Bro. Right. Today, the Esports Integrity Commission publishes the findings of its investigation into Astralis' emergency substitution request for Alexander Bro during the Blast Premier Fall Final. This investigation was initiated following a formal request from Blast to determine if any breach of ESIC's integrity program occurred. To view the full report, download the document here. But here is a summary of our findings. We will not be reading the full report, not on the stream. You can do it if you want. 1. There was process failures at Blast. Blast accepted Astralis' substitution request without sufficient validation, relying solely on representations made by the team. This procedural oversight led to a miscommunication, with Blast announcing the substitution as medically motivated, despite no supporting evidence. Let's start with that. So in other words, Blast, they just took Astralis at face value. Why would anyone do that? Right? That's problem number 1. But problem number 2, it's like their own process. So It's like going to work and having a day off, and then when the boss says, why do you have a day off? You go, I was ill, wasn't I? And you didn't call in, you didn't let them know, and the boss just turns around and goes, oh yeah, no bother. I won't be requiring a doctor's note from you. That's fine. Just, yep, good to see you back. The world doesn't work like that. So why were Blast just so incurious about this when they knew it was going to fucking blow up? There was no way. Other teams, remember, the IGLs did a media blackout over this. This isn't a small deal. You let another team, one you've had historical ties to down the years, get away with utter bullshit. Bullshit that if Astralis wasn't so hilariously bad as an organisation, let's say they'd made a good roster move, theoretically, in a timeline where Astralis is still capable of that, right? And let's say they'd won that game. Well, that's not fair on the team that loses. Now, as it happens, it's Astralis. So somehow they made things worse. But Blast just didn't even give a shit. Didn't even want to ask the question. 2, Astralis' conduct. Astralis benefited from this misunderstanding and did not promptly correct Blast's miscommunication. This behaviour breached ESIC's integrity program by failing to uphold the transparency expected of a professional esports team. So what they're saying there is, Astralis went, can we have a substitution? And Blast went, oh, a medical emergency substitution? Yes, right away, Mr. Astralis, sir. Cadian, I imagine. Yep, no problem, we'll get right on it. And then Astralis didn't turn around and say, oh, no, not a medical emergency. It's a special type of emergency. It's a shit team emergency. All right, well, sorry, Astralis, there's no contingency for that. We just assumed it was a medical thing. So, because Astralis didn't correct them, that's a violation of integrity. Not that they Machiavellian-esque schemed this, right? But whatever. Impact on the event. The substitution did not materially impact the outcome of the tournament, as Astralis did not progress beyond the group stage. Now, while that's hilarious, it's also irrelevant. But we'll circle back to that one, as Jen Psaki would say. And then actions taken. Blast is committed to improving its processes for emergency substitutions. ESIC has sanctioned Astralis with a financial penalty of $15,000 to be donated to a not-for-profit charity approved by ESIC. Additionally, Astralis must forfeit their monetary reward from the tournament. Conclusion. While Astralis' actions did not affect the competitive results, the lack of integrity in their conduct underlined the importance of robust governance in esports. ESIC remains committed to ensuring fairness, transparency, and accountability within the industry. Now, obviously, this got brought up because of the wording of that part in the third point. And you will see one of my colleagues here note, he said, this is beyond a joke. Well, it's esports. It's all beyond a joke, my brother. Using the tournament result to justify the punishment given when the rules were broken regardless of the result is absolutely baffling. Now, he's right, and I agree with him. However, I don't know if people remember, right, but there was another Blast incident where Vitality were in one of their booths and some dude was just coming in and out of the booth during a game with a phone, and it was like, guys, this is clearly against the rules. Then there was also the stuff where there was a screen broadcasting the stream of the game, the live feed of the game, in the room where people could see it. And then when they investigated it, they were like, oh yeah, look, all the teams have been doing this shit. Oh, and so ESIC's original plan was, well, we've got to disqualify Vitality, right? And then Blast went, but everyone was doing it. Almost everyone. Like 6, 7 out of the 10 team. And ESIC went, can't disqualify everyone. No one would agree to that. Well, how about a 10 grand fine? Right? And the 10 grand fine got, and everyone laughed about it and said, Reddit said, you shouldn't even fine for that. It's not like anyone's cheating. No one would cheat in CS, they said. while simultaneously complaining about how everyone cheats in CS. Because I like ZWoo. Now, ESIC in that moment realized that there is a pragmatism they have to exert and adhere to when they're doing these punishments. If it was all Richie fucking Thunderhands, I don't even know who that is, but just made that name up now. I say, okay, we disqualify everyone. I don't care if there's 3 teams left. We'll have a round robin. You know? Like, because rules have to be rules. But in the real world, where Richie Bumberclot Thunderhands, right, doesn't get to be in charge of esports integrity, unfortunately, what ends up happening is you give them a slap on the wrist and you change the protocols and you make sure they don't do it again. And I'm sympathetic to that, because that's just the reality of ESIC operating in it. They've tried to punish people lawyer up, they realize the authority is shaky, and you are going to get into a long, protracted legal battle, one you might not win, one that's going to cost you a ton of money, generally as well. Well, maybe you can't have that person suspended if the legal battle's going to be 2 years long, so, you know, because it would be, so they have to lift the suspension, then do the battle, you know. It's a whole fucking drama. It's a whole mess. So, more often than not, they'll try and have a compromise. And as soon as you say, me, the authority, the governing body, is willing to compromise, the people who would abuse the system go, oh, look, they're willing to compromise. Good. Got them exactly where I want them. And so that's how it plays out. And so, unfortunately, there's a little element of that's gone on here. Like, he's right, but they've had to come to a compromise and give Astralis a fine that is derisory, and then as a justification, like, yeah, will you take the 15 grand fine? And Astralis will go, okay, and they go, because like, it didn't really affect anything, so it's all okay. I wouldn't have put it in my report, but it's ESIC, so what you gonna do? Astralis reacted to the ruling, and in classic Astralis style, they said, today ESIC announced their ruling on the investigation regarding the emergency substitution of Alexander Brobro with Caspian, Cady and Muller during the Blast 4 final. We take the ruling into account, but we maintain our actions were in line with applicable Danish employment laws. We are disappointed that ESIC's ruling and decision does not include the employer's legal obligation to protect its employees in a sensitive situation. In light of the ruling, we're donating $15,000 to the Danish Mental Health Foundation. We have no further comments at this time. And what Astralis have done there is, first of all, we did nothing wrong. You did. Second of all, not only did we do nothing wrong, we are going to imply that we never said it was a medical emergency, and actually we couldn't say whether or not it would be a medical emergency even if asked, because that's private information. Complete crock of horse shit. Like, all that, this is like when Nicole LaPointe Jameson said, oh, we can't talk about what happened to Danny because that's a violation of HIPAA law. It absolutely isn't. You're not a medical health provider. You can't violate a HIPAA law. You're not holding on to the person's private medical information. That's not what you do. And that's very much here. There is nothing in violation of Danish employment law, and I've asked Danes this question about whether, like, are you sick? Is the person ill? Is that why you're putting in the request? Yes or no? If so, can we ask to see some evidence of this? No? Okay, not a problem. We will take it under advisement. None of that is bad. Blast didn't even ask those questions. And then, with the donation, do you see what they've done with the charity choice? Do you see what they've done there? They could have just said, we've decided to donate $15,000 to a charity of ESIC's choosing, as was outlined in the ESIC statement. Well, no. What they've done there is they have heavily implied that Bro was having a mental health episode. That's what they've done there. And that's Astralis in a nutshell. Implications, vagaries, right? They are saying, oh, we're going to give this money to a mental health charity because that's what this was really all about, mental health. Now, Bro's agent said he was fine and medically fit to play. Now, the org he was playing for, and by the way, shout out to the kid for repping them at the major, because I would have told them, stick it up your arse. But here's the problem. The Danish mafia thing, it's real. You can't tell Astralis to stick it up your arse if you're a player. They can keep you in contract jail if you're still under contract. They can poison the well, say you're a bad player. They can tell all the media outlets bad things about you, leak stories. There's all kinds of rat fuckery goes on in the Danish scene around Astralis, guys. So, obviously, bro just had to suck this one up. So even after this statement, he went and played for them in the RMR. I thought this was funny as well. After they missed out, there was an interview on Play. Our old friend Casper Strauber said, for years, Astralis was the team everyone in Counter-Strike fought tirelessly to dethrone, a Danish powerhouse that dominated the scene and claimed the game's most prestigious trophies tournament after tournament. But now those glory days exist only as a distant memory. The harsh reality facing Astralis today is that they have failed to qualify for a major in 4 consecutive attempts, with the last noteworthy title dating back to 2020. You can't qualify without putting up a great effort. We sat down with Astralis sports director Casper Strauber to gain insight into the team's struggles. And he said, we got humbled in the process. Everyone knows that a major is not something you can take for granted. You can't qualify without putting up a great effort, and despite a great effort, you might not be guaranteed a spot anyhow. I think we've been doing everything necessary to reach our goals, but without actually achieving them. For this specific major, I think everything would have been different with Device on the roster. I would say that we have managed quite well to still think about ourselves as a team that should compete at majors, despite us not doing it for quite a while. That's been super important for the team's understanding of itself. Also, bringing in such great players is something that has helped maintain this perception. I'm going to just argue that if you don't qualify for majors, are you bringing in great players? Are they great? The evidence would say no. Casper Strauber, by the way, the guy who... He's the guy that, went on, did that whole Device fucking podcast thing with HLTV, I think. Pretty sure he's the guy who tried to fucking mad dog alpha me. And I just laughed in his face. But he was the brainchild behind Device being the fucking IGL. How's that worked out? Is anyone accountable for any decision at Astralis? At all, ever? It's so crazy. Then anyway, they asked him about missing out on the sticker money, and he said everyone knows there's a lot of money involved in qualifying for a major and getting the stickers. It has obviously had financial consequences for the organisation missing out. That's something we in Astralis have been dealing with, of course. It's been especially tough for organisations that invest a lot to acquire high quality and then miss out because teams like us do consider major qualifications as part of our budget. But Astralis is not just built around playing majors. We don't base everything on making the majors. But obviously it is factored into our budget. They then asked them down here, it's 4 years since Astralis last won a LAN title. In the meantime, there's been a myriad of different lineups and changes. So can you understand if Astralis and CS fans in general have trouble believing in a big Astralis comeback? And he said, yes and no. Of course. I can only speak for the time I've been here, and looking at the team I inherited compared to the team we have today, it's pretty clear we have significantly better players. But it's also a time where we've seen a lot of changes in the industry with CS2 coming out, large changes to the map pool, and the 1.5 to 2 tier teams, 1.5 to 2 tier teams closing the gap on the top teams. If people dream about an Astralis team winning 3 majors in a row again, they are naive. That's not going to happen again. And then they ask him, do you think you have done a good job? If you look at the result standpoint, then no. And I love the way he's already framing this. It's all about results. But okay, let's go on. Because we haven't qualified for a major while I've been here. However, if you look at Astralis when I came here and what it is today, I think Astralis is way more attractive. Before Astralis suffered from not being... By the way, I think Astralis is way more attractive. Tell that to Yabby. That's so out of pocket. Before Astralis suffered from not being able to attract the best Danish players, that's something we have changed. People can see that we are working differently from what Astralis did in the years after their great success in terms of culture and how to run a team. We have gone from being not so interesting to super interesting to the players that we want to attract. And that was the end of the interview, with no questions about Device, which I'm sure the interviewer did ask, and I'm sure Casper Strauber said, that's off the table. Because of Danish employment law, probably. The Astralis shit doesn't end there, because why would it? They also, like so many others, but I'm singling out Astralis, because I'm a fucking hater. No, there's a reason. Right? The women's team was put on hold. And so, after careful, very careful consideration, Astralis has decided to temporarily put its women's team on hold. The roster, which currently includes people, right, has been a significant part of Astralis' commitment to advancing the women's esports, right? Kasper Strauber said, "I am saddened that today we must say goodbye to our 5 talented and ambitious female players. We've seen a team and 5 players who have continuously evolved, and we've been proud and happy to support them. Unfortunately, we must acknowledge that the changes in the industry surrounding the Women's League no longer allow us to manage a women's team in the way we believe it should be run at this time." Strauber continues, "It has been a great pleasure to follow the work of these players, and I hope that at some point in the future we may explore the possibility of developing a women's project again with the right ambitions and opportunities. Nevertheless, we want to express our immense gratitude to the entire team and everyone who has supported the team over the past years in shaping and creating the Astralis W project." Now, a lot of people are doing this right now. As I said earlier, the women's game is not in a good place right now. Changes to the rules around tournaments are impactful. There's a lot of rumors about the Impact League, where that's going to head to. I've heard other rumors as well that, like, some of these teams were being given, like, stipends from, you know, sponsors and partners, and that's dried up a little. And so now we are left with a lot of organisation dropping women's teams. You've also got this thing that's kind of like happened with Imperial, which has highlighted it, where because the Imperial women's team, and I'll talk about that on a stream in another time, the Imperial women's team has been invited to the Blast Bounty thing that's coming up because it's like the top 32 teams, and they're, according to Valve's VRS ranking, they are 31. There's also the problem of, if you have a men's team and a women's team, and let's say the women's team does well in the women's circuit, what little there is of that, and climbs up the VRS rankings because of prize money or whatever it might be, and then you have a men's team, and the men's team does well, well, you can only enter one into the tournaments they get invited to. And so obviously what we know is almost certainly most organization would pick the men's team. That's where the money goes. That's where you're spending more. So anyway, why have I singled out Astralis over this? Well, I'll tell you, my friends, because it's so funny to me that, oh no, we're so sad, we have to cut the women's team. You haven't explained why. Why? Just tell me why. Why must is the word you've used. Why must you cut the women's team? Be transparent. Is it money? Is it there's not enough leagues? Is it the team has underperformed? I want to know why. And you're not telling me why. You're just saying now is the time. You must do these things. And I will remind everyone why it's especially egregious that Astralis are doing these things. In March, they used their women's team for a publicity fucking stunt and talked about how committed they were to women in Counter-Strike. Equality, both off and on the server. This was March, guys. 9 months ago. And you might not remember it. They wrote an open letter to Valve. And what was it about? What was the big issue affecting women in esports? Currently, there are 29 free default male agents, but 0 free default female agents in CS2. With the full support from the organization, both leading up to and after their posts, their players, I'm sure they didn't give a fuck, by the way, asked for a solution where they too, as women, would be allowed to play as their own gender in the game they love. Now look, there should be a woman model in the game as a default, not just a one you pay for. There should be. Like, that's fair, right? There just should be. But considering everything else that's going on in esports and all the shit that affects women, and the fact that the women's circuit is barely alive. It's like, not to say it's on life support would be insulting. It's on like life support, and there's one of those multi-plugs with everyone like charging their phone in it, and it's like a game of plug Jenga, and it could go at any time. That's where they're at. You've got Saudi Arabian ownership. By the way, Astralis are partnered with Saudi Arabia because they work with ESL, and while they're not one of the Esports World Cup stipend recipients, so bravo on that. I'll tell you another little fun factoid. Well, it's not a factoid, it's just a fact. They were having discussions about having the Impact finals in Riyadh from the season before. And that's what they want. They want as I predicted, they want the Women's Impact League finals to happen in Riyadh instead of Stockholm. And the reason it didn't happen is some people, quite rightly, have some reservations. Anyway, we're committed to women. So they did this. They did this, right? And this is what we call in the business a publicity stunt, but in case you're under any illusion as to what this was for. And they used their team to do this. Look, like, there's no way the women wrote this. This is Astralis. We're like, right, we've got a women's team. How can we promote the women's team? We want women in the game. Let's get women in the game. Women in the game. Women in the game for £1. Women in the game for £1. Women in the game for free. We'll take it. Women in the game for free. And they brainstormed this, and then they said to the women's team, oh, you know what'll be really good and help you pop off and, like, get you popular and all announced? We'll just do this, like, publicity stunt thing over here, like Bully Hunters, except not chronically shit and embarrassing and career ruining. And we'll just put your face on it and put your fucking statement on it. And they went, well, yeah, we're just happy to be getting the salary and having the opportunity to play professionally, so cool. And then they did this sponsor activation around it. Hashtag free the female agents. The Astralis women's team took a bold stand for representation. We will now be cutting the Astralis women's team. Like, this org's just, they're not loyal to anything. They're not loyal to players. They're not loyal to principles. They simply don't care about these things. It's just, we just use anything we have to for publicity and to try and stack up some W's. But you're Astralis, it's always going to be an L until you fire the morons that run your org. You see, they're incredible. They are like Dreamweavers. They can fucking just take guaranteed W's and turn them into L's every single solitary fucking time. You know, this would have resonated, right, if you got, you know, all of the pros, all of the women that come together and do this. And, you know, like, you can back channel, you can reach out to Valve. Do you know what would have been better? Don't say anything. Go to Valve privately and say, look, in one of the updates, could we get, like, a default women's skin? And that'd be really cool. And Valve go, I don't see how this makes us money. And then you go, no, but, like, look, more women might play because of that. And then more women might spend more money. And then Valve go, that's true, but because you've said it, we're gonna brainstorm another reason. And then they go into a room, brainstorm another reason that no mere mortal can think of, come back, and then they do it. And then when it's done, you announce it together, all of the teams, maybe at Impact League, maybe before the finals. Stick around, watch the final with the other 300 people, because the viewership's been dog shit on that. Watch the finals, and we've got a special announcement from Valve. And you do it. Look, we did it. We freed the female. None of that. None of that. Just here's a picture of our team. Here's a hashtag. Here's what they said. It's for Astralis. Oh, shit, we're cutting you now. There's no, like, guile or craft or vision to anything you do. You don't plan anything out. You don't think about anything. You're not ambitious anymore. And I'm out here, and I have these great ideas all the time, and I give them away for free. Free. It's just staggering. So, in conclusion, Astralis is still an absolute fucking mess. And we haven't even started 2025. We haven't even got to the part of the story where, once again, stabby happens and they backstab Cadian again for the second time. Mark my words. Mark my words. That roster crashes out. Like, it definitely does. But anyway, Astralis, a mess. Always a mess. And will forever be a mess.